Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a story that is, well, fascinating, chaotic, and honestly, completely overwhelming.
We really are. Today's deep dive is into Mo Yan's incredible novel, Life and Death Are Wearing Me Out. And it's not just a book, it's an emotional and historical marathon.
A marathon is the right word. A half-century sprint through Chinese history, but told by a guy who gets executed, goes to hell, and then spends the rest of the story reincarnating.
Not just as anything, though.
No, specifically as farm animals. It is, and I don't think this is an exaggeration, the most inconvenient insider perspective you could possibly imagine. It all kicks off right at the start of the land reform era.
Exactly. And for our deep dive, we're really going to focus on those first crucial cycles, the ones that set the rules and the whole tone for the rest of the novel. The premise seems so audacious, but it's actually rooted in two very specific, very real inspirations that Mo Yan talked about.
Yeah, and I found that grounding so important. I mean, where does an idea like this even come from?
Well, the first part was philosophical. He saw a six-path reincarnation mural in a temple. You know, the Buddhist idea that a soul cycles through different realms, heaven, hell, the animal kingdom.
So that gave him the mechanism,
Yeah.
the structure.
Right. It let him look at history not as this straight line of progress, but as this exhausting, relentless cycle.
Which our protagonist, Seaman now, feels very personally. He is trapped.
He is. But the second inspiration is what gives the book its real heart and its political edge. It's the memory of a real person. A local, unbelievably stubborn farmer named Lan and his crippled donkey, who for 43 years just refused to join the collectives.
That real-world defiance is the key, isn't it? It's this idea of Kong Jin. It's more than just being stubborn.
Oh, much more. It's an internal strength, a refusal to bend, whether that pressure is coming from the Communist Party or, the laws of nature itself.
And that's the spiritual engine of the whole thing. The story starts with our guy, Shiman Now.
Yeah.
He's a landlord in Gaomi Northeast Township, and he's executed on the most symbolic date possible,
Right.
January 1st, 1950.
The very beginning of the land reform movement. His execution and then his life as a donkey, as a bull, it all becomes this search for meaning and this indictment of the injustice he suffered.
And what I find so fascinating is the author's own reason for writing it. Mo Yan said this book was his personal reflection and repentance. He admitted that when he was young, he used to mock this real farmer, Lan.
He said he spat at his back.
Yeah. So this whole epic novel is his way of going back and trying to understand and really honor that incredible, lonely persistence.
So that's our mission today. We're going to explore that opening drama, the injustice, and then the first two lives. The donkey and the bull. We really have to focus on the irony, the dark humor that comes from seeing human history through animal eyes.
Right, from hoof level. That's where the critique really lands. So let's start with Human Now's human life, or really the brutal end of it, because that rage is what drives everything that comes after.
We have to. The novel immediately starts pushing back against the official story of the time. Shiman Now is executed as a class enemy, a landlord. But the book is clear, he wasn't the caricature of a cruel oppressor.
Not at all. He's shown as being diligent, working alongside his tenants. He was charitable.
Exactly. He paid his workers well, he fixed up the local roads, and he genuinely cared for the poor.
Which leads to the ultimate irony, right? The sources say he literally saved the life of Lan, the very same farmer who becomes his master later on.
Saved him from freezing to death when he was just a boy. So he's executed by a system for being a class enemy, even though he kind of embodied the community spirit that system claimed to value.
And that injustice follows him to the afterlife.
Oh, it does. He demands justice in the underworld, and what does he get? Torture. The sources are so specific. He's thrown into a cauldron of boiling oil, fried like chicken, it says.
The description is, it's horrific, but also darkly comedic.
Yeah.
He comes out crispy and charred like a Tianjin dough twist. It's this bizarre mix of spiritual trauma and like a food metaphor.
It's so visceral, but it doesn't break him. The Yama King, the ruler of the underworld, he says to him, "Shiman Now, are you still making trouble? Will you recant?"
And he just refuses. He demands to know what his crime actually was. He earns the name Hard Man.
And this scene, it just perfectly captures the novel's whole point. The cosmic justice system, just like the earthly one, has no good answers for him. The Yama King, the ultimate authority, basically admits he was wronged.
But then he just shrugs it off.
He does. He says, many people who should die do not. Many who should not die do. It's this This universal statement of injustice.
It's the ultimate bureaucratic evasion. Like, sorry, it's not fair, but it's not my department.
Exactly. And so Shima now is trapped. Is his execution a specific historical crime, or is it just part of the random unfairness of the universe? He refuses to accept it. So, as a punishment, or maybe a twisted reward, he's sent back.
But not as a human. He is reborn on the very same day he died, January 1st, 1950, as a white-hoofed donkey.
A snow-standing donkey. A legendary animal. And he's born right into the barn of Lanley, his former hired hand.
And the conflict is just immediate.
Yeah.
The donkey has all of Shimanow's angry human memories.
Yeah.
I have to imagine the trauma of that, the shame.
A helplessness. His first conscious thought is seeing his old life completely erased.
He sees his former concubine, Ying Chun, and she's now married to Lanley and his employee. And she's pregnant with Lanley's child, a child named Lan Jifeng.
The saying meaning liberation. The irony is just relentless.
Everything that was his property, his woman, has been liberated. His first instinct is just pure human rage. He wants to speak, to fight, to get his body back.
But he can't. All that rage just comes out as a pathetic, he's silenced, trapped.
And yet at the same time, the animal instinct is so powerful that human rage is immediately undercut by what the book calls pure donkey joy.
Right. The simple, blissful satisfaction of chewing on some fodder and black beans.
And that's the central tension, isn't it? Yep. This exhausting fight between his human demand for justice and the donkey's simple physical need to just exist.
And that brings us to the other pole of the story. Lan Lian's incredible stubbornness. While Shima now is dealing with his donkey shame, Lan Lian is dealing with the rapidly changing political world of the 1950s.
Lan Lian is such an anomaly. After land reform, he gets his plot of land, but then the authorities immediately start pushing for collectivization. First, the agricultural producers cooperatives, the APCs, and then the huge people's communes.
And Lan Lian just says no to all of it.
We have to understand what that meant back then. To farm alone was basically an ideological crime. He becomes known as Gaomi County's only single farmer, a black model.
A negative example, someone to be pointed at and ridiculed.
He's totally outside the system, and the pressure on him is immense. You have these new officials like Hung Tai-yu, who used to be a beggar, and now he's the powerful party secretary. And for them, Lan Lian's independence is like a personal insult.
The sources capture that pressure so well. Hong Tai-yu screams at him, "I can allow a cat to sleep in my pants, but absolutely not allow you to farm alone."
Which is such a wonderfully absurd threat. But it shows the total intolerance for any kind of independence.
Yet Lan Lian's defense is just. It's so simple and brilliant. He doesn't argue ideology with them. He argues bureaucracy.
Right. He just points to their own rules.
Exactly. He quotes the official policy. Membership is voluntary. Withdrawal is free. He's using the system's own words against it. And it's that quiet, legalistic resistance that makes him so powerful.
And the donkey, Shima Nao, sees this. He develops this incredible loyalty to Lan Lian because he sees Lan Lian's fight as a continuation of his own.
The bond just gets stronger and stronger, and it all culminates in this one heroic moment for the donkey.
The wolf fight.
The wolf fight. He defends Lan Lian's land. He saves his mate, Flower Donkey, by fighting and killing two huge gray wolves by the river. It's this pure, visceral moment of individual heroism, animal integrity.
But what happens next is maybe the novel's deepest critique of how propaganda works. The donkey fought the wolves. He won. But then what happens?
A few hours later, a team of hunters shows up. They find the dead wolves.
And they shoot them.
They shoot the dead wolves, and then they completely fabricate a story.
They claim they saved the donkeys from the attack, they take the credit, they take the bounty, and they just rewrite history on the spot.
The donkey, who knows the truth, is just filled with rage. He tries to bite the hunter, but he's a donkey. What can he do? His truth means nothing.
It's a devastating moment. It shows that truth isn't about what happened. It's about what's politically useful. The donkey's individual heroism is just erased because it doesn't fit the collective narrative.
For Shima Nao's soul, that might be a bigger defeat than his own execution. To have the truth of your own existence just denied over and over.
And sadly, it all leads to his end. The consequences of the Great Leap Forward and the famine that followed. After a brief time, as a respected mount for a local official, he gets crippled in an accident. Lan Lian takes him back, but the bigger tragedy is coming.
The famine of the late 50s was just a total societal collapse in many areas. And Lan Lian's nonconformity, his stubbornness, it's all compounded by this desperation. The sources are blunt. The donkey is eventually killed and eaten by starving villagers.
The ultimate fate. It's not a political execution this time. It's just brutal, desperate survival,
Yeah.
a quiet end to a life of resisting these huge historical forces only to be consumed by their consequences. So the soul of Jimin Now, the hard man, is released again. Exhausted, I imagine, but still refusing to just surrender who he is.
And so his second life begins. He's reborn as a bull calf, Shimenu, on October 1st, 1964. This is a crucial phase because we're in the post-famine era, the communes are still in control, and this cycle is all about this theme of enduring kinship across species.
Let's talk about the moment of recognition, because it's one of the most beautiful and tragic parts of the story. Landlingen goes to the market. He needs a new animal.
And he sees this calf. And the recognition is just immediate. It's sensory. The book says Lanlian notices the calf's eyes are exactly like the black donkey's.
It's not just him being sentimental, it feels like a real spiritual connection.
Right. And Lanlian's response is to defy the collective. Again, the local leaders, still Hong Taiyu, they want him to buy the mother cow. She's a better asset for the commune.
But Landlingen stubbornly buys the calf instead, for 100 yuan, which is a huge amount, all because of that look in his eyes.
It's another quiet act of political resistance. He's choosing a personal, intuitive bond over communal efficiency. He's saying this relationship matters more than your rules.
And the bond that they form is so profound. Landlien doesn't treat the bull like livestock. He treats him like a reborn relative.
The source says he treated him with the affection reserved for a son or a father. And that's the core message, right? All that suffering has brought this clarity, this deep, loyal kinship that goes beyond species.
And the bull carries that same stubbornness, that Quan Jin. The donkey resisted by remembering he was human. The bull resists by aligning his will with Landlien's.
He does. And if the donkey witnessed land reform in the famine, the bull is now witnessing the next chapter of chaos. This is the mid-1960s. The Cultural Revolution is just starting to bubble up.
So the bull sees the world descending into madness again.
Yeah.
Political violence, the Red Guards.
Exactly. And the bull's resistance is more existential. He's famous for being incredibly difficult for anyone but Lanlian to handle. He refuses to work for the collective. It's this passive animal resistance that perfectly mirrors Lanlian's human resistance.
It's like the animal is embodying the philosophy.
It is. It's trans-species solidarity against this ideological pressure. And it just deepens the indictment. No matter what the political movement is called, it keeps demanding the total surrender of the self. And Shimon now, as the bull, just keeps refusing.
Okay, let's shift into reflection, because the sheer absurdity of all this suffering makes you ask some really hard questions. Is Jimin now suffering because of his past life as a landlord? Some kind of cosmic debt? Or is it just because he refuses to fit in?
That is the paradox of the hard man. I mean, he has this horrific, politically motivated execution, but so much of his suffering in his animal lives is, it's smaller, it's more absurd, it has nothing to do with politics.
That distinction feels so important. The trauma isn't just political, it's existential. The humiliation of just being an animal. The donkey watching his former family as a jealous outsider in a barn. That's a kind of suffering politics can't even touch.
And then you have the moments that are just pure, arbitrary, bad luck, dark comedy. We have to talk about the castration attempt.
Yes, the quack vet Shubao.
The donkey is famous for having 3 tests. And this vet, the symbol of incompetence and casual cruelty, he performs a maneuver he calls stealing the peach from under the leaf.
And in this moment of excruciating, completely unnecessary pain, the donkey loses one of his testes.
It's suffering that has no historical context. It's not about the great leap forward. It's just random, pointless cruelty.
And that, I think, makes the case that suffering is just a constant. The big political pain is terrible, but the absurd physical pain is just as real. Shima now is being worn out by all of it.
And what connects all these different kinds of suffering is that King Jin, that stubbornness it takes just for Lanlian to exist. In a world demanding total conformity, his insistence on farming his tiny plot of land, his 8 mu, it becomes this epic, almost spiritual act of resistance.
But does the novel, by focusing on all this cosmic and random suffering, sort of let the political system off the hook? You know, if the Yama King says injustice is universal, does that excuse the specific injustice of the execution?
That's a really deep question. I don't think it gives the system an out. I think it uses that cosmic framework to show how the political system capitalizes on that universal fatigue. The execution is specific and unjust. But the political chaos exploits the simple truth that life itself is exhausting.
So Shima now keeps coming back because he won't let that historical injustice be the final word. But every time he comes back, the simple act of living just adds to the exhaustion.
It's an existential rebellion fueled by weariness, the stubbornness of the donkey, the stubbornness of the bull. It's this trans-species solidarity against being erased.
And that takes us right back to the title, doesn't it? Life and death are wearing me out. He's just tired of the politics, tired of the rebirths. The message isn't about winning an argument. It's about the incredible, relentless persistence it takes just to exist with your integrity intact.
He just wants peace. He just wants to be recognized for who he is. But the world keeps throwing him into new bodies, new conflicts, new injustices, big and small. There's no easy path. There's only the will to keep trying, which defines him and, of course, defines Lanlian. So let's try to synthesize this. Let's move from the story to the takeaways that you, listening to this, can carry with you.
Well, the first is historical. This story gives you a ground-level, deeply felt account of China in the 1950s and 60s.
And that's so vital. It isn't an academic analysis. It's a story that shows the human and animal cost of idealism. It shows how the drive for collectivization often crushed the very individuals it was meant to help, and how it distorted truth, like we saw with the wolf incident. It's the view from the barn floor.
And the animals are key to that. The donkey and the bull, they're these pure, loyal witnesses. They highlight the stability of a simple bond, the one between Lanlian and his animals. And they contrast it with the absolute chaos and moral messiness of human society.
The animals, they operate on instinct and loyalty. They often seem far more honorable than the humans who are consumed by ideology or, like the starving villagers, just pure desperation. The animal perspective is the moral anchor.
And if you look at the two main figures, Ximenao's soul and Lanlian, you see two different ways of holding on to integrity. Ximenao spends decades fighting, raging, searching for this grand sense of fairness.
While he's doing that, Lanlian just keeps his head down. He farms his 8 of land. He relies on his connection to the soil and his strange, deep bond with his animals. He doesn't try to change the world. He just tries to preserve his own small corner of it.
And in the end, that quiet refusal, Lanlian's Kuang-jin, it proves more resilient than all of Ximenao's furious reincarnations. The story seems to suggest that the human world is defined by this endless fatigue, politics, grand plans, suffering.
But that simple, enduring loyalty and love, whether it's between a man and his donkey or a man and his land, is the only thing that's really constant, the only thing that cuts through all that noise.
It's a powerful challenge. It really makes you think about your own priorities. So maybe the final thought for you to take away is this. What is your fundamental non-negotiable bond or belief? What is your personal sacred 8 of principle that you would cling to even if the entire world told you it was foolish stubbornness?